Hello, folks. It's been a while, and it's time to do some catching up.
Welcome to episode 279 of the Tabletop Bellhop Gaming Podcast, our long-awaited and overdue return. Tonight, our main goal is to catch everyone up on the games we played while gone, as well as talk about some of our favorite games with cool catch-up mechanics.
Then if we have time, we're going to catch up on a long overdue review of the Riftlands expansion for Shadow Kingdoms of Valeria. That's going to depend on how long it takes to talk about all of the games we've played since we were last here.
Before we get to any of that, we better let people know who we are since they've probably forgotten us. I'm Sean, your host, and with me is our Tabletop Bellhop blog queen, Deanna.
Hello to all the bellhop boarders.
And Mo T, the Tabletop Bellhop himself.
I am Mo Tuzano, the Tabletop Bellhop, your cardboard concierge, helping you make your game nights better.
Now, we like to record Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern live at twitch.tv/tabletopbellhop, and we love it when people join us in the lobby, our chat room here on Twitch. Now, we've all still got a lot going on in our lives, but we're hoping to get back on a regular schedule. Be sure to watch our Discord and socials for up-to-date information when we are recording or not.
Next up, a bit of housekeeping. First, disclosure. Wherever you're consuming this, any links you see are most likely affiliate links, which cost you nothing extra to use but help support the show. Next up, you can find detailed show notes for this episode over at tabletopbellhop.com/episode 279. That's 279. And when I say detailed show notes, I do mean detailed. We list every game we talk about with links to where you can find a copy or find more info on it, etc. Finally, I want to acknowledge that this episode exists because of the support of our awesome Patreon patrons. Thank you all for sticking with us during this frustratingly rough year.
The Tabletop Bellhop team is here to answer your gaming and game night questions. The theme of tonight's episode is catching up, so we thought a good topic would be catch-up mechanics in games.
Now, for those unfamiliar with what that term means, that's some kind of rule system or mechanism in the game that gives some kind of advantage to players who are falling behind in the game, who are falling behind in score, or falling behind in the race. Or in some cases, some games do it the opposite way, where they punish the player or players in the lead.
Honestly, I think a good catch-up mechanic can make or break a game, especially for welcoming games for newer gamers.
Yeah, and it's a very hotly debated topic in board gaming. Some people love them, some people hate them. Most people that hate them are the heavy gamers, the people who like, the Vital Lacerdas, the winsome games. There's a famous quote from the designer of Food Chain Magnate that said, "If I can't lose the game on turn one, why have turn one?" Which is definitely a design philosophy. In those kind of games, you generally don't get catch-up mechanics, but catch-up mechanics are so popular. To use the exact same game as an example, the first and only expansion for Food Chain Magnate is the catch-up mechanic. The catch-up expansion, which introduces a catch-up mechanic so you can't lose on turn one for all the people who enjoyed the mechanics of the game, but not how frustratingly difficult it can be if you choose the wrong strategy. So we are not here to debate whether we like or dislike catch-up mechanics. If we want to talk about that, we can. We can either share if we like them or not. But my plan was just to talk about the ones we like in games or ones we thought were neat.
All right, well, recently, after a bit of time away from it, we got back to Xylotar, as it is a great game for those who might not be big gamers, but who love card games and trick takers.
So this one has a really simple catch-up mechanic, and the reason it's first on the list is because we just played this recently, and when we get to talking about the games we played this with my aunt, uncle, and my mom, who all enjoyed the game. So it's a good game for people who just enjoy trick-taking games. And what happens is, after the first round, the player with the least points gets the lead for the trick. And again, this is a trick-taking game, and in many trick-taking games, the lead can be really powerful. And in this particular game, I feel it's even more powerful because you get to be the first person to know something about your cards, because this is the very unique trick-taking game where you don't get to look at your own cards. You have some good idea what you have, but you never know exactly until you actually play them. It works well in this because the game's only 3 rounds. So in a trick-taking game, normally you play like everyone gets the lead, or everyone gets the deal and the player to the left leads. Well, because it's 3 rounds, usually not everyone gets that. advantage. So giving it to one of the players makes sense. And I think it's a great catch-up mechanic to give it to the player in last, to give them that slight advantage of being able to play the first card. And honestly, they can even start off making a bid before anyone else that way too, though I don't see many players doing that.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to bid on round one. It's a great catch-up mechanic, and it adds balance to the game.
All right, well, going from one game that we have played recently to one that we really need to get back to the table, and that is Isle of Skye.
So this has one of the most controversial catch-up mechanics in board gaming. If you do dig into any of those threads on Board Game Geek I alluded to earlier, in this game, your income is set based on each turn you get so much income, but then you get an additional coin for every spot behind the leader you are. The further behind the leader you are, the more coins you get. Now, what I like about this one is it doesn't just reward the player who's in last. It's every player behind the leader that gets an advantage here. Though what people don't like about this is the mechanic ends up encouraging players to avoid being in the lead until for a big move, which is similar to another game we'll talk about later that has one of the most famous catch-up mechanics ever. And personally, I like that, but there are a lot of people who don't.
No, I dig it. Intentionally trying to dodge being in first is part of the strategy, and it's part of the fun of the game.
All right, well, one that always stands out to me is the great and disgusting equalizer of beefing up your potions with rat tails in Quacks of Quedlinburg.
Oh, yeah, no, good one. That is like my favorite catch-up mechanic, is how you add the rat tails in Quacks.
Yeah, and again, I like this one because it, again, doesn't just reward one player. It's not just the player in last, and it actually scales just how far behind you are. It's not just about position. So it's not like I am in fourth, so I get 3 coins because I'm 3 behind the leader. It's I am 82 points behind, and I have to count all those little rat tails. Being 82 points behind is a little ridiculous in Quacks. So it also does the Isle of Skye thing, where everyone but the leader can earn a bonus. But if you're really close, you don't. And so you don't have that. You want to be in second thing. And rat tails are nice, but I also find they're not overpowering. Like having them helps. It does help a bit. But having a ton doesn't necessarily mean you're going to do all that much better in the next round. It just kind of gives you a bump down the track. It increases your odds of doing better instead of guaranteeing you do better or just have more income to do more things, which I honestly think fits Quacks really well because it's a push your luck game at its heart. So it just increases the odds a bit in your favor.
Means you still have hope.
Yeah, it gives you a leg up, but you can still make dumb choices and pull that one too many tiles from the bag.
Every time.
Yes.
Now, one we haven't seen on the table in a while, but I still get to digitally now and then, is Suburbia. This is a flip on the catch-up mechanics we've been talking about.
Yeah, so this is a great example of the opposite side of the spectrum, where it's a game that doesn't reward those in the back, but rather punishes those who surge ahead. And this is all based on the scoring track in this game having red income lines. And every time you cross one of those lines, you actually decrease your population, which is okay, but your income as your city grows. And that's the thing. If you grow too quick, you're not going to have enough money to sustain yourself. And it's a really interesting line when I'm playing that game and you're paying attention once you played it a few times, where you will do things to kind of hold that back as long as possible until you know you can afford going past that red line.
Yeah, again, the game makes it so that strategically wanting to hold back a little is part of the game. And I dig that.
All right, well, going back to a classic, one of the most well-known catch-up mechanics is in Power Grid.
And this one is all about turn order. Player order determines 3 things. First, who has to bid first in the auction? The top player has to bid first. They have no information on what others may want and won't see any new plants. Second, when buying resources, it's going to go in reverse order, giving the player in last the best prices on the market. And then finally, when you're placing new power plants, again, it's reverse order, giving the player in last first pick and therefore the most options.
Yeah, and this is the game where you hear most of the time where you want to be middle of the pack. Like the goal in Power Grid is to hang around the middle of the pack until the last turn. And then you make your big move and hopefully surge to the front. And the other impressive part about Power Grid is it's a heavy economic euro, right? Well, fairly heavy economic euro. There are definitely heavier games out there, but it plays up to 7 players and it works really well at 7. And once you get up to 7, you really see this turn order really making a huge difference between first and last.
All right, well, sticking with classics, Dominion features an interesting punish the leader mechanic, the inability to act.
Yeah, this is a neat one. One of the coolest things Dominion introduced, besides generally being the godfather of deck building, even though couple other games did before, is the fact they made it so the point cards, what you were trying to collect, what wins you the game, are basically useless. They just clog up your deck. They make it so that you don't get to act. The more you buy, the least actions you're going to get during the game. And you're going to end up at a significant disadvantage against someone who hasn't bought a lot of point cards. The problem is that person who hasn't bought any may not have enough time to catch up once the game's ramping up to the end of the game and the decks start to run out. And since this was introduced in Dominion, we've also seen it in many other deck building games. Clank even kind of represents this with the Dragon Noise. And then the treasure cards, or a number of treasure cards that don't do anything once you have them in your deck. Draconis Invasion, you get wound cards that mess up your deck until you get healed. It's become a common mechanic in deck building, and all the credit for that goes to Dominion.
Yeah, but that balancing act of trying to get enough points when while not clogging up your deck, I never really thought of it as a catch-up mechanic. Like I just thought it was part of being a deck builder.
All right, well, this last one is a fun and quirky one, just like the game it's from, and that's Galaxy Trucker.
So this one, as usual, when doing any of these lists, I always do a bit of research online and see what other people have said about the topic. And I spotted this on the list, and I'm like, Galaxy Trucker, really? And then someone pointed out that the reasons I thought were fascinating, and it's kind of amusing, because the bigger you build your ship, the more likely it is to get damaged because of the dice rolls. And if you cover every column, you're basically going to get hit by every meteor if you don't have your shields and lasers in the right place. Well, also, the smaller your ship gets, the less likely it's to take a hit. So the more damage you take, the smaller your ship becomes, and the harder it is to hit, which I actually thought was really neat. And then there's another catch-up mechanic, and this was actually recognized somewhere else, is the fact that when you hit the encounter deck, when you're going through, the player in first always gets first pick, which is an advantage. And they get to, like, whatever, they get to fight the pirates, or they get to fight the slavers, or they get to land on the planet and collect the goods. But once you do that, you then get slowed down and you fall behind on the space track, which changes the turn order. So immediately after getting an advantage, it's taken away if you take advantage of it, giving more of an advantage to the next player next time. And I think that's utterly brilliant. And the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, oh, you know what? Galaxy Trucker's got a fantastic catch-up mechanic that, like Deanna said about the Dominion, it doesn't feel like a catch-up mechanic, but that is the result that comes from it.
All right, well, now that we've caught up on a variety of different catch-up mechanics, we want to hear from you. What games have you discovered that feature cool ways to punish the leaders or reward those falling behind? Are you a fan of these mechanics, or, like some others, do you consider this lazy game design? We would love to know.
Let us know in the comments, reply to a social media post, send an email over to mo@tabletopbellhop.com, or, better yet, join our Discord and start up a conversation there. We've even got an episode feedback section that is great for discussing our podcast topics.
And you can find that at discord.tabletopbellhop.com.
Welcome to the Bellhop Tabletop, where we talk about the games we've been playing lately. It has been a while, so we have a lot to cover.
Yeah, so everyone who's a listener knows we plan to take all of July off to get some stuff done around the house. We weren't planning on missing August as well. Now, I'm not here to apologize, nor do I want to get into the small details. Just know we all wish we were recording instead of dealing with what we were dealing with. Thankfully, with all the crap going on, we did still manage to play quite a few games, and that's what we're here to talk about. Now, we're going to start with our first thoughts on the Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Rings trick-taking card game, which that is the full title. It's a little ridiculous. I notice most people are just calling it Fellowship of the Rings trick-taking, and that's probably what we'll talk about in the future. This is something that showed up from Asmodee Canada, thank you, and we played it with the kids. I have been hyped about this game ever since I saw it was announced. We do not have a strong connection to Asmodee, but this was one I actually reached out and was like, do we have an Asmodee Canada contact? How can I get the copy of this game? I want a copy of this game. And we found out who that was. So now we do have a contact at Asmodee, and they happily sent us the game. So that was awesome. And it is as good as I thought it would be, though not quite what I thought it would be all at once.
I thought so it's cooperative trick taking, and I knew it was going to be sort of in line with the crew, but it just, I've loved it, but it wasn't quite what I was expecting.
Yeah, so mechanically, I'm not surprised. It was kind of what I wanted. It was the story seems to be missing. But for anyone who doesn't know, it is kind of like the crew. It's a trick-taking game where you have a condition, like someone must take a specific card, or someone must win so many tricks, or you have to do this. The interesting part, though, is it's not based on like set missions written in a book like the crew. Instead, it's based on what characters you take to play through each mission. Now, at the beginning of the game, you only have 4 characters to choose from. But as the game goes on, it unlocks more characters. So you actually kind of get to decide your goals. Some examples are Frodo wants to win tricks containing rings. He has to have at least 2 ring cards that he's taken in tricks. That can be 1 trick, can be 2 tricks. But like Pippin, on the other hand, has to win the least amount of tricks, and so on. Every character is different. Now, the game then is like the first game, you literally just sit down with those 4 characters and you win by completing those 4 characters' goals. Or if you're playing 3 player, you have to complete 3 of those 4 characters' goals. And if you do that, you win the game. You beat chapter 1. It's standard trick taking rules. There's 4 different suits, and then there's a trump suit that are rings. The one of rings gets the lead. It's the most powerful card in the game at any point, not even following suit. Whoever has the one of rings, which starts off as Frodo, can throw that card. And I think Frodo's stuck with it, at least as far as we've seen. And then you're playing standard trick taking. Now, the campaign's broken into chapters, and each chapter introduces a new character, which unlocks new ways to win and lose. And then as characters are introduced, you're also introduced to new card types and mechanics. Now, we've only done scenarios 1 through 4. I've enjoyed every play. It's definitely not easy, but it's also so far not too difficult either. And every single time we've lost, we can point to where the mistake was made. Where like, oh, you shouldn't have led that, or you should have known that, or we missed this, right? There's always been a very distinct reason where it's like, okay, we played badly. That's why we lost. Not, oh, the cards weren't right, or I had a bad hand.
And it's got that good feeling where you just want to go back and give it one more try. Like every time we weren't like, put this away. We were like, oh no, we're staying at the coffee shop for another round, kids. We're not leaving until we beat this one. Yeah. So I think you were off a bit there in that I believe by the time we got to scenario 4, like the scenarios don't necessarily give you every character that's unlocked in the game. They said you have to pick from certain ones based on the scenario. Yeah. So
but it gets to be more than the number of players fairly quickly.
Yes, it does. And that's, you're strategically picking based on your hand and which character you would like to play, while also trying to make sure the ones that have to be in the scenario go to the right person. And I don't know. It's not as tightly thematic as we thought it would be for the story. The art and the cards and the Lord of the Ring theming is all there, but the story is kind of weak so far.
That's what I felt was missing. I'm like, here you have a Lord of the Rings card game, and the scenario literally says like they go to a party at Frodo's house, and then it's like journeying through the Shire. Like there's no story, there's no prose, there's no writing. And I'm like,
they're just like, you guys know,
yeah, right?
You know Lord of the Rings, so we're there, okay? Now go play a game.
But then I don't remember like them meeting an elf in the Shire. So is that just my memory failing from reading the novels too long ago? Or did they like throw in a new scenario that didn't actually happen so they could throw this elf character in? So I was just disappointed because I expected like to read a paragraph of prose that, made me feel like I was more involved in Lord of the Rings instead of you're having a party. There's Frodo, Pippin, Merry, and Gandalf. Go,
Do you know in advance what characters will be unlocked, or is it spoilers? No. So you have no idea whether or not, one day Bombadil is going to be unlocked, or
who knows? They're literally
we have not looked ahead.
Little sealed things that we're opening.
The game expects you to not peek ahead. And again, we're on scenario 4. Now that we've gotten to scenario 4, though, we have started bringing this out to public play events because I could easily reset the deck for the first. I figure the first 2 or 3 is probably good to know if you'd want to buy the game. So we have started bringing. When we first played and only had played the first 2 scenarios, I'm like, I don't want to bring this out because I don't want people to get ahead of us and like open stuff I haven't seen.
10 chapters or 12?
I can't remember. It's 10 or 12.
Yeah.
But if you like the crew, pick this up. Like I realize we haven't finished it yet.
It is a solid game, and it's going to be a solid game regardless of whether you're playing through the campaign or not, right?
Yes.
Like,
and then apparently it's one of those, like, when you're done, you now have this trick-taking game you can keep playing. We have already unlocked new types of cards, I will admit, but like there's a lot of cards still in that box, and they can't all be new characters. That's all I have to say.
18 chapters, apparently.
18.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Okay, we got to pick up the pace, clearly.
Yeah, we got a ways to go. A few full review probably coming eventually, but like something pretty horrible is going to have to happen for us to not like this by the end. And honestly, for the number of times we played in a number of different places, like I've already got my money's worth out of this. Like I'm happy. It'll be awesome if we finish it someday, but I'd be happy with what we have. Next up, Hex Effects. This is a game we brought home from Gamma Expo that's been a huge hit with the kids. It's another one of those games that, like Zensu and the Deadlies, where someone forced us to take it, which was kind of amusing. But it's been a big hit. This is a cutely thematic game about hexes or ailments and their cures. You start the game hexed with 4 ailments, and these are kind of silly things, and you win by curing yourself. The trick is every cure card that you play on top of a hex opens you up to more ailments. It's very much a take that game where you're going to swap between trying to cure yourself and making other players worse and sometimes stealing their cures. Our kids love this game and ask for it often. Gwen in particular is enamored with this one. When we've got it out at public play events, it's a big hit. And I got to say, I really like the look.
And for any new listeners or those who are just, don't pay close attention, by kids, we mean teenagers. Our kids are 15 and 18. Though younger kids could play this game, but when we're saying our kids love it, our teenagers love it. And I was surprised by how much they love it. They basically forced me. I was forced by our children to sit down and play this game. They're like, we're going to teach it to you, Mom. Sit down now. And it's not bad.
And the card art is great. I think it's very thematic. It's a pretty looking game for what it is too.
Like the plague doctor look, like and it's the quack ailments and stuff. It's thematic and cute. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like the carnival fair posters, like Jesse's Cure All, right? That's the look it's going for, and I think it pulls it off. Now, Xylatar has weird. Didn't we already talk about Xylatar? Oh, we talked about Xylatar earlier. Sorry.
Yeah.
Xylatar has hit the table a surprising number of times. So good job, Bezier, for having a trick taker that we don't like get obsessed with, love it, play it a ton, and never touch it again. This has come out with the family, with my extended family up north. We had it at the Summoning, a local game convention this past weekend, showing it off where it was popular. Huge hit. Very surprised by how well it went over with my trick-taking relatives, who, including my mom, who is a huge euchre fanatic. So she got right into it, and I thought it might be a little too weird for her, and she liked it. I felt I was kind of taking a chance bringing this up north for our vacation, but everyone loved it. My only disappointment with this game is we were supposed to get the expansion at Origins, and we didn't make it to Origins. So I am still looking forward to checking out the expansion for Xylatar, but without that, I still love the base game. It still gets played. Great, unique trick taker.
So what's unique about Xylatar is that you're not seeing your own cards. You're kind of playing them blind, and they have been put in order by another player at the table who does know what cards you have, and that's the main conceit of it, right? And we brought it up to when we're saying we're playing with Mo's family, this is his mom and his aunt and uncles, and these are all people in their late 70s that are not gamers. They like trick takers, and that's it. And so I was actually like a little hesitant. I was like, you brought Xylatar? Is that one going to fly with your aunt? Like, and they loved it, like totally loved it.
And then another example of this is Thrones of Valeria, which is another game, trick-taking game that I packed for that trip, and we returned to regularly with the same mix of people. This was even more popular than Xylatar with my aunt and her sister. And my mom really liked it. But this one I get because they're big euchre fans. And especially my aunt and her sister play bid euchre, which is euchre for points and bidding on how many tricks you get and interesting stuff. And I'm like, oh, that fit even better because there's like the bowers and the card powers. Everyone enjoyed it. Everyone preferred team-based, but had fun playing free-for-all. I've also had a great experience with this one, introducing it to a group of friends who came out to our Walkerville game night who regularly play euchre themselves at school. And they're like, oh my God, this is so better than euchre. And one of the guys, when he left, he's like, I don't know if I'll ever be able to play euchre again, man. It's just so much better. So I told them to head over to one of our local game stores and see if they can get a copy of Thrones of Valeria. For any of you listening, if you do want to pick up any of the Valeria games, if you go to Daily Magic Games, you can use our code BELLHOP to save 5%. No thoughts on Thrones?
The cards are still dirty.
Yes. To be fair, it was interesting because of the fact they don't flip, because they're not reversible. The symbols aren't in both corners. One of our complaints during our review, check out our review, was they found it easier to sort the cards by the backs because they've got that worn corner. So everyone would sort the cards by their backs, then turn it around. Then at least everything was facing up the right way and sorted. So someone actually appreciated the dirty artwork because it helped them sort their cards. So they wouldn't have had to do that if they just put symbols.
They did complain about the fact that it wasn't in both corners, though. They're like, the one thing that's wrong with this game, Mo.
Yeah. All right. Since Adam back in February, check out our Adam episode for information about that really cool gathering and the Gamers Ranch. We've been exploring Queen Games' new family and friends lines of games. We've talked in the past about Star Explorer and Moonlight Market. And a year ago or so, we were talking about Dabawala, which Sean really enjoyed. Well, we finally cracked open the final game in the series, which is the Alhambra Family and Friends Compact Edition, is at least what they're calling it on Board Game Geek. There's nothing in the box that says Compact Edition. This is, as advertised, a small box version of Alhambra, the classic Spiel des Jahres winner that comes in at a lower price point, which is kind of the whole point of this family and friends line. Now, the biggest change in this compared to the original is they got rid of the big player board where it shows you all the scoring opportunities and where you can store your tiles before putting them into your Alhambra. They replaced that with this like tiny little tile that you just line up things next to, which honestly worked fine. There was no disappointment with that. The game is Alhambra. It's the same mix of tiles, the same scoring rules. It's plays as good as it all ever did at all player counts. And it's Alhambra. It's cheaper Alhambra. Like, why would you buy anything else kind of feeling? Now, the box does include some small expansions, which is kind of cool. So it's actually has more in it than my original version of Alhambra, but we haven't tried those yet.
So it's at the slightly lower price point, but it's also a little bit less of a table hog, which I actually think is a bonus. What was great about this was it totally hit the friends and family thing for me because we introduced our kids to Alhambra because it's such a classic. It hasn't hit the table for us in forever. And this was an excuse to get out and play it. And they had never played it. My mom had never played it and they all really dug it.
Now, I do have two complaints that are unique to this version and why you might want to stick to your old copy. I hate the score markers. These are the same ones in Moonlight Market, and I hated those too. They don't stand up well. They're annoying. They're cheap cardboard. Replace them with meeples or something else from another game if you want, or you have everyone put their own favorite little trinket out instead. And second, they did this really funky thing where they gave you a box insert, and it's this like DIY thing made out of the punch boards that you have to figure out how to set up as best you want. And even when you find a good way to divide everything up, it slides around and lifts up so cards slide under it. Maybe if I got the white glue out and found a shape I liked and glued everything down, it would work. But like honestly, I'm at the point I'm going to throw that out and put everything in baggies, and it's going to do a better job of keeping everything sorted and ready to play.
Definitely, when we take it to public play events and we have it upright to stack it and then get it there, it's a horror show when you open it up.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, this doesn't affect gameplay. It's minor inconvenience with the scoring markers I don't really like. And while this insert, you don't have to use it. If you don't own Alhambra, to me, this is very much worth picking up. And I will say, if you don't own Alhambra, you should, because like it's a Spiel des Jahres winner for a reason. It is a fantastic tile laying area majority game where you're trying to collect more of different colors buildings, and there's rules for walls. I also think that if you do like Alhambra, there's got to be a gamer friend of yours who doesn't have it, and this would make a great gift, especially at the low price point. Now, as for anyone who already has it, it's going to be your call. There are some definite quality. What's the opposite of an improvement?
Quality of life, detriments, non-improvements,
non-improvements, but detriments.
Yeah.
So they cut some corners. I don't know. They had to make the game cheaper and smaller, right? So it's up to you if you're going to mind. You no longer get the nice plastic box insert that comes in some editions of Alhambra, but it does take up less of a footprint. For me, it's great because I'm out of room. So having a game take less space, I already upgraded my copy of Alhambra from the old big shoebox size to a flat version because it took up less space. And now I've
less
upgraded
shelf
the friends and
space,
family
less table space. Those are the pluses there.
Yeah. And honestly, this is great for public play too, because it's easy to pack.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have a quick game of Control. Gwen asked for this one when we were talking about Control back in the podcast. No, I couldn't tell you episode numbers. She was out of town, so she never got to try it. This is the funky game from Pandasaurus where you have a black cube, kind of looks like Lego, and you're sticking bricks on it. And every turn you're placing 3 bricks. And at the end, you're going to score looking at each side and seeing how much of each color you can see. She enjoyed it about as much as we did. It's neat. It's interesting. It's a very unique take on area majority, like 3 dimensions, which is really cool. But it'd be way better if the cubes stuck together better. It's way too easy to knock stuff off. And that's not supposed to be a dexterity game. I still enjoy it. It's still in our collection. I bring it out to public play events now and then. Usually gets a player or 2.
What I remember about that game is that the 2-player variant seemed to be better than playing it with more. Like there was something about 2 players where you're playing 2 colors and you're trying to deke out your opponent as to which of the 2 colors you're actually scoring. I dug that part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, with the game, you get 2 colors assigned to you at the beginning, and you pick which one you're actually scoring, and then you can kind of mislead the other player to try to get them to cover up your other player. There is that little bit of deduction, I guess, involved. Next, we continue to explore Reign of Dragoness from Grandpa Beck. We've now tried all the different variants in the book, so we're pretty much ready to review this one. It'll be coming soon. Like, we just need time and we need to record. We're all really digging this game. This is another one that went over well with my family up north. It's also a hit at our public play events. It's just a solid, fast-playing, quick-to-learn, hand-shedding ladder card game. It's what Grandpa Beck does. He takes traditional mechanics, adds a little flair to them, usually some fantasy, some nice artwork, and it makes a solid game. The normal variants are interesting enough. To me, they were kind of a take it or leave it thing with the whole flocks of dragons. But whatever, I could take it or leave it. There is, with our copy, we got a individual sheet that had variant rules for 4 or less players. I do recommend with 4 or less players use that. Other than that, this game's solid.
Yeah, as you said, it's Grandpa Beck doing what Grandpa Beck does best. They make family weight games that are twists on trick takers, that when you bring people to the table, like your grandma that doesn't normally play games, they're going to be able to sit down and have fun with you. Like,
have you played Reign of Dragoness? Have we gotten that to the table with you, Sean?
I got one of the basic plays of it. I haven't
just the basic.
Haven't done anything deeper with it yet.
I couldn't remember. See, that shows how little we've gotten together. So next up was kind of a special thing for us. So this is Guildlands from Outset Media. So Deanna, Gwen, and I were actually honored to be invited to Brampton to tour the actual Outset Media Games warehouse and their offices and take part in their first ever game launch event for their new tile laying game, Guildlands. Unfortunately, Sean was busy at the time, so wasn't able to come up with us. They put on a good show. There was cosplay, special effects. The designers were there. Kedrick Winks, who we've talked about many times, also got to meet Ked Boiter for the first time. Him and Kedrick's worked together on a number of games. They were both there showing off the game. We actually got our copy a few days ahead of time, which was kind of cool. And then when I was there, they were like, made way too big a deal about me. And they were like, you get to teach a table. I'm like, all right, that's cool. So thanks for Outset for inviting us up to that. The barbecue was good. That was just a cool opportunity. And part of me wants to say a warehouse is a warehouse, but it was neat to get to see a board game warehouse where they were like literally assembling games and stuff. Not while we were there, but like
no, a warehouse is a warehouse, but this was a warehouse full of 5-minute dungeon and Quirkle, so it's just that much cooler.
Seeing a truckload of Quirkle, like multiple pallets of Quirkle in one place was kind of neat.
Quirkle to the ceiling. And I wasn't expecting the over-the-top effort that they put into the launch event. Like there was a smoke machine and people in costume and stuff, and it was very cute.
Oh, with lighting effects, sound. Yes. Yeah, it was pretty cool. So Guildlands is a tile-laying city building game, think Carcassonne if you wish, where all players represent guilds constructing the same city, but every guild scores completely differently. The toll collectors want to create the longest possible road. The guards want to build watchtowers on the edge of the city with walls between them. The mages are trying to strategically place towers to make rings. It's really neatly done. You all know how much I love asymmetry. So as soon as they pitched this game, I'm like, oh hell, we're in, we're all in. That was at Gamma. We got a really early sneak peek at this one at Gamma where I couldn't even share pictures. And I'm like, yep, that sounds cool. It's been a hit with our family. It's been a hit with everyone at the event. The event was mostly retailers and they were into it. They're like, oh, this is cool. Our player base is going to love this. And then I saw yesterday, now the Dice Tower gave it the Dice Tower seal of approval. So don't just trust us. I think Outset has a real hit with this game. Now, what I'm excited about is we love Outset. Outset media guy, Paul, who convinced us to get Zensu. They're the ones that talked us into bringing Psychobabble home. We played some great games of Shadow Ninjas with Kedrick. We love their games in the first place, but this is now a new direction for them aimed at the more hobby gamers and the heavier gamers. This is the heaviest game they published, and it represents a first step towards publishing more. And I couldn't be more excited because I've been really impressed by what Outset's done. And as you all know, like the light games are great for our public play events, but when it's the four of us sitting around, I'd usually like to play something with a little more meat on it. So I am really looking forward to see what Outset has to come in the future.
I am so excited about the fact that they're dipping into heavier games. Like I am so geeked out, and I love this game. Like I love, it's like asymmetric Carcassonne. I love how easy it is to teach to someone and get the basic rules across, and then you have the asymmetry and there's enough there to make it interesting. It's solid. It's fun.
Another one, this was one we purchased, is Clever Forever. Happened to find it in a thrift store in Wallaceburg, Ontario, and I ended up playing it the same weekend. So unlike many of the games we buy that end up on a shelf and get pushed aside for the shelf of shame, I'm like, I don't know, something about this had me excited. So we actually got this to play like the weekend we got home. Now, the Clever series is from designer Wolfgang Warsch. Some people think this is what put him on the map. Stronghold Games is the publisher. Very well regarded and popular series, but none of us have tried any of the games in the series. Now, having tried one, I can see why these games are so well regarded. It is a fantastic roll and write with some, to be honest, the name's great, clever mechanics. The big mechanic that's in all of the games, from what I understand is the same in all of them, is the dice system, which is you roll a set of colored dice, you choose one to keep and use that you're going to activate. Then all dice that are lower in number from that die go on a silver platter, which is you put it on top of the box. But now you can't use those dice. So then you're going to do this 2 more times with probably less options. And it's one of those where if I take the big dice, I lose my other options, where if I take low dice, there's more chance I'll get more dice, and all that's going on. You're keeping 3 dice in total. Then, and here's the clever part, the other players then pick 1 die on the silver platter to use themselves. So it's one of those games where every roll matters because everyone's paying attention and everyone's watching the platter to see what's going to be available. And it's kind of got that Valeria space-based kind of thing going on, but it's completely different. You're not rolling for resources. And then I'm not going to get into the details because one of the rough parts about this game is the initial teach. Each of the different color of dice represents a different color on your score sheet and scores differently. That's all I'm going to point out. And apparently the differences between the first game in the series, Oh So Clever, then Twice as Clever, and Clever Cubed, is that score sheet. That's what changes. The mechanic is the same. I am really tempted to go pick up the rest of the series. I think it'll be big hits at our public play events. My family loves it, and I think it just having these available, they're quick to teach. So, like I said, it seems overwhelming at first when you've got 5 different type of dice that score differently. Though I did note when wondering if I should go pick up the others that number 4, which is this one, Clever Forever, is the highest rated on Board Game Geek. So it's possible I've got the best one already.
Okay, so I haven't played this yet because the score sheets have some very small iconography on it. We talked about maybe finding a digital version online or scanning it, blowing it up, and laminating a copy so that I could play along. I sat through a teach, however, where Gwen was teaching this game, and she did a great teach. Like it was a bunch of people who had never played before, and she went through it in a really logical way. And I was like, damn, good teach, kid. But she talked for 15 minutes straight. Like she didn't stop, and she was talking fast. She's like, you do this, and then you do this, and then sometimes this. And I was like, okay, this is not a simple game. If you think this is a simple game, it looks simple. It's a bunch of dice. It's a roll 'em right with a piece of paper. It is not simple. And I was thinking about, like, there's zero theming on this game. There's nothing. No. It is dice, and you're trying to math. It's dice and math the game. And maybe if there was some cohesive theming on there, it would make the teach a little easier to stick in your head. Like maybe if they painted something on top, you could be like, oh yeah, but your spaceships are doing this, and then it would make sense. I'm not saying it didn't make sense, but it is a beast of a teach. You got to front load a lot of information in this game. And then once you're playing it, it's very straightforward and very clever. But that teach,
And everyone who we've taught it to, once they play, are like, okay, I didn't get it at first. I was overwhelmed, but now that I get it, it's awesome.
Yep.
And
so it seems like it's worth that learning curve.
Technically, the Clever Deluxe is rated higher, although it doesn't have as many reviews for the game. They are all above 7, though. Like the spread of actual ratings is really pretty small. Yes, Clever Forever has the largest number of ratings and, sort of nets out highest that way, but it's like a 7.7 and the lowest is a 7.4. I think it's like, it's really not.
And Clever Deluxe, is that spread. A reprint of the original, or is that something else?
I haven't a re-implementation. It's the latest one. It came out in 2023.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure because I don't know the game well enough now to say without, digging in what the actual difference is. But Clever Deluxe is the newest version and rated well.
So if anyone is in the Wallaceburg area of Ontario, there were 2 copies. It was only $5, and it's right next to the Toy Wars, awesome retro toy store that
I can't remember the name of the thrift shop.
I can't remember the name of the thrift store. I didn't Google it, but it's in the same building, honestly, as Toy Wars in Wallaceburg, Ontario. They had 2 copies, $5. Like, this is some of the best $5 ever spent. Like, seriously. It was a new and shrink for $5. And it is, like I said, that the series has been around for a while. People have been raving about it. We're late to this party, but I'm glad I found the party because I'm having a good time. So another thing that's been getting some use lately is my Crokinole board. It's now, I've started to bring it out to all public play events. I've gotten more people into Crokinole, as well as I brought out the local community who haven't played it in years but like it. Every time I bring it out, someone's like, oh, my grandfather had a copy, or we have a one on the wall at the cabin we haven't touched in years, or I grew up with the Canadian Tire one, which is the one I grew up with a Karoom on one side and everything else. And it is proving to be really popular enough that I'm like, I would feel bad not bringing it now because there are a core group that like to play it. And honestly, it's a really good game for me to play when I'm in between teaches. It's just like nice place. I sit down at the Crokinole table and I can sit there and just like flick things and play through a game. And what I'm really enjoying is playing 4-player. The team game, me and Crokinole, has kind of taken over for me versus 2v2.
Just as a note, Leanne's Thrifts and Gifts is the name of that store next to Toy Wars and Collectibles.
There you go. Thank you, Sean, with the Google foo.
Also, I got a chance to play Crokinole this last event as we were sort of wrapping things up and just waiting for the last few games to finish up at the end of the night. And I have historically not been great at flicking games. It is not one of my strengths. But I actually found a technique with the Crokinole board that was working for me. And so I need to see if that's a decent technique that I can continue on with, or if it was just that night and that board.
I also played at the last event, and I can confirm that I have no technique at all. And if playing Crokinole is a prerequisite of being Canadian, I may have to hand in my passport.
You've at least played. So now what we got to do is we got to get Pitch Car back out and see if Sean can now flick in Pitch Car.
No, because the technique I was using would not work on Pitch Car. It is not
there you go.
applicable.
Okay. Not applicable to Pitch Car. Speaking of which, Eagle Griffin Games gets a shout out. They're bringing Pitch Car back.
Oh, sweet.
For a long time. It's on their website right now.
You're going to get the loop, aren't you?
I don't know if that's out yet.
I don't even want to play Pitch Car. I hate Dex games. I'm still excited about this.
No, I'm just hyped this back. People can get Pitch Car at a reasonable price again, which is awesome because that game is so much fun. All right, another cool thing that happened, something unusual, like, getting to visit a flipping game publisher's warehouse, which was pretty awesome, is we actually got to check out a potential expansion for a game. I thought it was really neat. So we have talked on the show about Sirens and the other 2-player games from MD Board Games. Sirens is the 2-player card drafting game where you're creating songs. You are sirens trying to create songs to lure ships to crash on the rocks. It's a very cool thematic game with great looking artwork on the cards. Well, the game designer heard our review of Sirens and reached out and said, hey, do you want to try an expansion? It's a small set of cards. I think it's 6, but I might be off because I didn't double check. Bad on me. That you draft from at the start of the game. Like, you do a couple things part of startup. You haven't gotten to see your whole hand of cards yet, which is important. And I think you might know the special rule or you might not. I don't remember. I'll check the details. And again, it doesn't matter. You get a set of cards and you draft just like the main game. So you're going to keep one, pass to your opponents, keep a second, then one's discarded, which is why I think it's 6 cards. Now, every card just has a game-breaking ability. You can keep the card at some point. You can play it to do a thing. Or you can use the cards to place a bet. And this is where the Muse trials are. And they're Muse cards. And they have names and they have quotes from the various muses, sticking with the Greek mythology theme. And when you place them as a bet, you place it face down. And the bets represent in-game goals. Like, you will have the most red sections, or you will have perfect flow, or you will score 2 charms and things like that. And then it works like Ticket to Ride tickets, where if you hit your goal, you get the points. But if you fail your goal, you lose the points. Some cards also have other bonuses you can earn in addition, where it's like, whatever. If you have perfect flow, get this. But if you have perfect flow with 3 sections, get 2 bonus points. I really like this. 2 reasons. One, it opened the game up because Sirens was starting to feel a little scripted to me. You were always scoring the same things every time. And yes, there's a random card drawn that changes the rules every round, and that does add some replayability. But you're always trying to get your flow to work. You're always trying to build sections that are more than 1, averaging 3. And you're always trying to make sure, it started to kind of feel the same, where this really opened it up there's other ways to get points. And like, there's times where you're like, I'm going to play a bad card here because by doing that, I'm going to be able to score this bonus, which is worth more than I would have got if I played that card in the right place. Plus, it gave you direction. And we've talked about this many times, and maybe we should do a whole episode on this. But some games you sit down and you get your stuff and you're like, I don't know what to do with this. And Sirens can be like that. You get your initial hand and you're like, huh. Whereas now, if you place your bets, you're like, okay, well, I need reds, or I need this. And your opponent doesn't know what you bet. So that's important. So like Deanna Deanna notices I'm collecting a bunch of reds. She might be like, oh, maybe he's scoring reds.
I love that you bet halfway through the game. And I love that if you don't bet, you get an in-game power. I love that trade-off, and that you get your first, because you only have 2 draft rounds in Sirens, and you're going to end up with 3 cards and then 3 cards. So you've got your first 3 cards and they're already played out before you placing your bet or not. So I dig that.
Yeah, it's neat. At this point, we're literally just play testing. We provided feedback. Shout out to the designer. It's Art Casey, who at this point doesn't know if this will ever become an official expansion. Maybe it'll be a con promo you'll be able to get, or MD Vorn will start packaging it with the game. But he did find our feedback useful. I just hope this comes out because I felt it escalated a game that we enjoy and has been surprisingly popular at our public play events
to
the next level.
What's really interesting to me about this game is it is not rating well on Board Game Geek. But if you actually look at the comments, what seems to be driving it down is purely the solo play. The solo people
the solo
don't
play
like
is
this
wicked.
game. And that I think is really, honestly, obnoxiously hurting the rating of the game for that. I mean, to be fair, they market it as a 1 or 2 player game, and so it is not unfair to complain if you don't like the solo game. But realistically, I think this is another one of those games where, did it need a solo game? Maybe it should have just been a 2 player game, and everyone would have been happier.
The Muse trials have solo rules as well, because I don't think we tried that. Yeah, we haven't tried the solo.
Tried the Muse trials.
Oh, we should see if that improves it. Maybe that will help bump.
To be fair, I like the solo rules. It's just they were hard.
They were.
I love the
impossible.
Theme.
Like, did you ever win against
Oedipus? Or not Oedipus? What's his name?
Odysseus. Did you ever win? Ever?
I think I did once. Well, what happened? I don't think I ever won. What happens is it's thematic in that once you play once, you can tend to beat him, but then he gets pissed off and gets harder. And I don't think I ever beat the harder version. I think I only ever got the halfway there.
Sorry, it's Orpheus. You're playing versus Orpheus. It's yeah, the one that went down into hell and came back out, played the harp. Yeah.
Anyway, I'd still recommend Sirens. Not everyone loves it. Enough people are buying it based on our reviews and our date night recommendations. So I hope people are enjoying it. We just need them to go on Board Game Geek and rate it a little higher to give them a little boost. We do like Envyborn. They're no sponsor of the show or anything, but I think it's really cool that Art's like, hey, you like this game? I wrote this game. Hey, I made an expansion for it. Check it out. And like paid to send it to us at his own cost. And it's really neat. I feel bad because when we're teaching the game to people at our public play events, it's with the expansion. And those people can't get that experience again.
Well, no, I take the expansion out, put it to the side and say, you're learning the game, play the game first. And then if you want to play the expansion later, I can show you how to play it. And no one took the bite to learn the expansion, even though they enjoyed playing Sirens. Like, I taught it a bunch at our last public play.
Next, Kabam. No, not Kapow. Go check out our Kapow review. It's an awesome dice builder. Kabam is a game that actually was gifted by one of our fans, which I thought was kind of cool. We traded some games and they threw this in saying this will be great at your brewery game night. So thank you very much for that. You know who you are. And I got to say, I brought it out to our last Walkerville event, watched some people play. They were right. This is a silly, stupid game. This is a card slapping game. You know, the type where you're throwing down cards and slapping them on the table as quick as possible. It's one of those, but it's not like Taco Cat, Goat Cheese Pizza where you're trying to slap first. It's just first one to see something.
It's Bam Pow Biff.
Yeah, has superhero theme. So you have this like card that has a pattern of 9 different symbols on it, though the middle is actually just like kapow, bam, boom. You then have one out on the table. You're trying to find a match of at least 2. When you see it, you say the word in the middle, you go bam, and you slap your card down on top. And then that way the board grows. So you have this constantly evolving tableau in front of you. In addition, every player is assigned a color and gives you another superhero sound. And you get a bonus if you match that color. So if I could be like, bam, splash, because I happen to match purple and splash is my own power. Then you can actually make a kabam, which is if you get 3 colors. If you can match 3, instead of saying the normal words, you say kabam. Anytime you do a match, you discard a card. When you kabam, you get to discard 2 extra cards. When you do your superhero power, you get to discard 1 extra card. First person out of their cards wins. Again, Taco Cat, Goat Cheese Pizza, and all those style of games. Silly, stupid fun. What's great about it for a brewery game event is it gets loud and it gets other people going, what the heck are they doing over there? It sounds fun. So for what it is, it's great. We played it with the kids. The kids think it's funny. They probably will play it with their friend group and have fun. But I am never, ever going to break this out at Brenda's and sit down with as a family to sit and play a game of Kabam.
No, thank you. It does look like the folks playing are having fun. I do not want to be one of those folks.
Yeah, this is very much just one of those beer and pretzels, loud, drunken, not even drunken, but just, but having fun and not caring sort of game. You're not going to be focusing and diving deep into the intricacies of Kabam.
No, definitely not. I thought it was cute. The superhero theme is so pasted on, but hey, whatever, it works. At first, when I got it, I'm like, hey, a supers game. Sean might dig this. I'm like, yeah. It's another Happy Salmon. It's that style of game, that number monster game, Monster Crunch or whatever. Next one, long overdue. A return to the Shadow Kingdoms of Valeria. Finally checking out the Riftlands expansion from Daily Magic. We're going to be reviewing this one soon, so I'm going to keep it short, potentially even later this episode, because we've got a good flow going. First off, this adds the thing we've all wanted. Every single one of us, when they played Shadow Kingdoms, went, where is the asymmetry? And then they put out an expansion and they went, here's your asymmetry of random cards. And I'm like, no, I want every race to be different. Now they are. Every race gets 2 unique abilities. One you get from the start of the game, and another you unlock by leveling up, the way you unlock everything else. Then you also get a bonus new board and shrine where you can spend magic to go to the Riftlands. There's 3 choices. And when you go there, you put a campfire token there, which ends up being area majority scoring at the end. And you get to draft magic items, because now you can equip your race with magic items, equipping max of 2 at once, which is just cool. Spoiler, I love this expansion. I got what I wanted. I finally got the asymmetry that has been missing from this game since it was published. And while the Riftlands stuff's pretty cool, it opens up new opportunities and new ways to get the dice you need.
Yeah, no, this expansion is a winner. It levels up this game in every way. I would almost say it's must-have.
Yeah, I would never say that Shadow Kingdoms is going to be my favorite Valeria game, but this did absolutely add some nice content to it and generally improve the game. The problem I have, though, is it is a shame that it has taken a couple of expansions to get this game to the place where it should have started. This is a much better game now. I think they have done a great job. It's just a shame it had to take a couple of expansions.
Yeah, honestly, recommendation for Daily Magic. I know they're kind of rebranding all their stuff because there's still some brand confusion with Valeria, where people think they're all interconnected in more ways they're not, or expansions for games, and they've started to drop the Valeria name. And I honestly think they should re-release this as Shadow Kingdoms, with all of this expansion, and then maybe some of the stuff from the other expansion. In my opinion, I think that would be a better product, is like an essential edition or whatever you want to call it. I think that'd be a better stopping off point for this game. Now, sticking with expansions, the next one's New Hotness. This one was, unfortunately, we're a week late. It was live on Kickstarter last Wednesday. It has finished up. It's probably worth checking, Sean, if you get a chance, to see if Land versus Sea Uncharted has late pledge open. Most places don't do it. We actually got this one from Good Games Publishing back at Gamma Expo. There was an embargo, so we didn't talk about this one for a long time. And then when the embargo lifted, we were in the middle of all the crap that had been going on. Now, this is for one of our favorite games. Please check out our Land versus Sea expansion. Some people call it the Carcassonne Killer. It is a fantastic tile-laying game about completing patterns, where in general, land is trying to complete land and sea is trying to complete sea, but there's so much more to it than that. Now, what this expansion gives, I'm going to assume you know the base game, is a new starting tile, something that's totally different than the basic one. 24 new tiles that just get added in with the rest, and 3 new ways to score, which work at all player counts, like from 2-player all the way up to 4. And they combine with the existing scoring options, and you can kind of mix and match. And one of the things we liked about the game originally was these sliders that you could kind of decide how complicated to make your game. Well, you just got a whole bunch more of those. So you can really kind of sync the game into what you want from it. Now, the new starting boards are cool. They feature lots of icons, and one of the big things they're pushing is you can score points on turn 1. So you don't need to wait 8 turns to complete something. You can get some points right away. City scoring has these castle-like cities on many of the tiles that overlap land and sea. And when you complete a feature that's connected to a castle, all the bonuses double, just the bonuses. So waypoint bonus and the X's. And what's neat about this is it gives your opponents a really good reason to complete your areas, because if you put out enough tiles with enough X's on them, doubling those is worth more points than tiles ever will be.
I love Land versus Sea. Like, love it. I adore it. And the best thing about this expansion was it was an excuse to get that game back to the table. Like, I was so happy to be playing it again.
Now, the bandit and pirate rules are really simple. All it is a new tile type that when you play it down, you score based on things already on the map, trade routes, and bandits and caravans. It's a simple addition, not a lot of impact, but kind of neat to toss in. Now, menhirs are really neat because when you play one in line with one already on the board, or if you complete a connection between 2, you get 1 point per Excel on the path. This is another simple add expansion that honestly I think should be tossed in, like when you're teaching the base game almost, just to add that you're not just scoring land and sea. Also watch for these. I think it's one of the first ones you should toss in because it's really simple to do. But do watch you don't miss when you complete them.
So it's neat. It's probably my favorite of the expansion, the add-ons, right? But I think it adds AP because there's so many possibilities for them to line up. Once your map gets filled in, you're really stopping to check. All right, wait a second. What's in line of sight here, right? So I found it did slow things down a little bit, but I loved it.
And I did discover there is late backing ability. If you go to Kickstarter.com, check out Good Games, the Good Games account, and Land vs. Sea Uncharted expansion and Meeple Pack to get your late pledges in.
I will add a caveat. I was playing with one of the most AP prone humans on the planet, our eldest daughter, so maybe that's what it was.
Yeah. And I got to say that Meeple Pack seems totally worth it to me because that would really help with that AP for those menhirs in particular, because it makes them 3-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
It also gives you tokens for all the trade routes, which would just make end game scoring so much easier.
Yeah, we
If you
ended up
can
putting
move them from the
tokens
board.
on for the end game scoring anyways, just to keep track of it, right? So yeah.
Though fair warning, if you get the meeples, it no longer all fits in the original game box.
Mm.
Other stuff. This does come with new 6-sided tiles. Like, when you make a full ring, you get to toss in a tile. You have new options with those that tend to go with the other stuff, right? There's one that has cities, other ones have trade routes. All of that combined, right? So you have like 3 new ways to score, 24 new tiles, new starting tiles in a small box that fits in the base game box as long as you're willing to hide some of the tiles under the scoreboard. This is at the point I would love to throw out the box insert, but in this game, the box insert is the scoring track. So I'm sure there's a lot of people who've come up with options with this, but I will say without the meeples, you can fit it in the box, and it's going to be up to you to figure out how you want to organize that. If we're patient, all we do is put all the new tiles, which do have a symbol in them, under. That way, when I bring the game out to a public play event, I can say, do you want to try the expansion or not? I've liked what I've seen. I think I'll always be using the new starting tiles. Like, I don't see why I wouldn't. I think they're better. They give you more options right at the start of the game. Cities are neat. They're more cutthroat. I like that cutthroatness. Cities in particular are great with 3 players because now the cartographer has more reason to complete other players' regions. I think they actually give a little bit of a nudge to the cartographer, who was the hardest role to play. The menhirs and raiders are neat. To me, they don't change the feel of the game. Whereas as soon as you put those cities in, the game feel changes. You're now way more counting what your opponent is doing and trying to figure out if it's worth stealing their work, which changes the feel of the game. The problem, though, and this is not going to be a problem for everyone, is a problem I've found that using these expansions adds in 24 more tiles. And with 2 players, that's about 12 more turns in the game. No, that's different if you take bonus turns and stealing. It makes the game significantly longer, like half an hour longer added to the playtime. And that's without the AP for menhirs. So that's just with the new tiles. Also, there's just more things to think about and more math required. So what happened was Land versus Sea to me is a nice, quick, solid game that I can play that requires a good level of strategy that gives a rewarding feel in the end for a short game into a longer, thinkier game, which is good if that's what you're looking for. If you want you're going to sit down for an hour, hour and a half and play a Euro, you can sit down and play Land and Sea with the expansion. But it's not quite what I wanted from Land versus Sea, which is to me more of a thinky filler. And this also meant, like, for our public play events, our menus have categories, right? And there's like the starters. I had to move it from the starters and put it into the area filled with medium and heavy games because it's now on that level just due to the playtime.
Yeah, and okay, so Mo's already said all the reasons I love it, and I agree with it being longer now, and I'm on the fence if that's a good or a bad thing. So I will say 2 things I didn't like it, and they're visual, and it has to do with the fact that it's already a very busy game, and it's got a cool, cohesive look. You're making these neat maps, but now having added more icons that matter on top of more icons that are just there for visual theming, it's a lot to look at to try and scan in any quick fashion. Even Gwen, who doesn't have vision issues, was saying it is hard to look at and try and find all the spots that you're trying to line up to make things happen. And then the other thing is that the icon for the expansion for you to be able to sort the tiles out is just tiny and not brightly colored and is hard to spot. It's a pain in the butt.
If you are hooked on this and you do think, well, what we've said makes it for an interesting game, you can go to that late pledge and you can get the all in. That's the original game expansion and meeples for only $60 plus shipping.
Ooh, that's with the original. Okay.
Yeah.
That honestly seems very reasonable for that game.
Yeah.
Land versus Sea is great. Another big hit, Sandbag. It's another, right? I mentioned my uncle's farm. They're all into trick taking games, so of course I brought Sandbag, one of my favorites. This was a game we kind of poo pooed a bit when we first tried it, and the more I play it, the more I'm digging it. It's one of the more thinky games, and what I like about Sandbag is that you never have a bad hand, and it's all about figuring out what to do with those cards and the other cards in play. So I was really, again, impressed by how quick my mom, my aunt's sister picked it up and got into it. And honestly, my aunt's sister was just like, I'm coming over to play games because Mo's there, right? She was all excited we were in town because Mo always brings new games. This was her favorite game that we showed her. So she loved the thinking required and how every hand could be a good one. This has to go, and we have to make a note somewhere that the next time I'm up at my uncle's farm, we got to bring Sandbag. It used to be Telestrations was our must-bring game. Sandbag, I think, is now our must-bring game. Also up north, we played Flip 7. That was a big hit. It was honestly like perfect end of game night. I knew that would go over well with that crowd. Unfortunately, we couldn't get my uncle to sit down, but my uncle just like hovered around the table and was like, you could tell he was doing the math in his head. And I swear every time I asked him if they wanted to hit, he was like, yeah, I'd hit. Or no, I would stay. No, I would hit. I swear he was just sitting there calculating probabilities as he circled the table like a vulture. He got totally
sucked into Flip 7. He's like, I'm just going to wash the dishes. I'm just going to go watch TV. I'm actually going to stand here and watch this game. Oh, yeah, he was totally sucked into it.
So I couldn't get him to sit down. I wish he had. We also played around to Caution Signs. Caution Signs is popular. It was popular last year with the family, proved to be popular this year. It continues to be a hit at our Walkerville events, popular at the Cookie Bar, popular at the Summoning. Scott and Danielle, you have a fantastic game here. Like Caution Signs, I still have yet to see this game fail. I have yet to see someone have a bad time playing this game. I have a hard time selling it sometimes as soon as I say it's a drawing game. But as soon as someone sees the deduction round, they tend to be sold. But as soon as they play as the deduction person, they're in 100%. This game has just been a huge hit for us.
The big thing
for any of our longtime listeners who would remember when we were talking about being up at Mo's uncle's farm last summer, I'm going to tell you that Gwen managed to squeeze a 4-legged duck into our game of Caution Signs. And that killed me. That is the funniest thing I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, it was like Wacky Duck. And, well, she drew the 4-legged duck.
I think one of the big selling points about this game, and the way I've been selling it to people who do hesitate the moment you say, oh, this is a drawing game, or like, oh, no, I don't do that. I'm like, hold on. You have no time to put any skill into your drawing.
Yes.
The speed, the limited time you have to draw anything at all means that it is the great equalizer. It doesn't matter if you are a fantastic artist, because you only have 20 seconds to get something on that sign.
That 20 seconds levels the playing field. Like there's...
All right. Also, just sticking with the Summoning, at the Summoning, we actually had a number of play-to-win games. One of which was Finspan. Now, we actually got to try this ahead of time. So we picked up the copy ahead of time so we could actually teach it at the Summoning. And this was one we played at my uncle's. No, my aunt and uncle didn't get into this one. We also tried it at Brenda's before showing it off. And wow, Finspan's good, y'all. Like, I know people like to hate on it and whatever cash grab and all your silly arguments. It's not even designed by Hargrave. I don't even understand why people have a problem with this. You're perfectly willing to buy the Nets Magic set, but you don't like a board game with a similar mechanic. Whatever. Finspan's good. Seriously. This is the most streamlined and elegant version of the Wingspan system. That system of playing cards on a track or activating the track to do things. That is what this game is about. That's all you do in this game. You literally are either playing a fish or you're activating your column of fish, and there's 3 columns. There's less scarcity. There's less difficulty getting the cards in your hand to the table and played. There are more options for what you can do. You're not relying on any random factor like dice, though you are still drawing from a deck of cards. And I kind of love it. Like this is, I was disappointed when we had to give up Wormspan last year. But like now I'm really bummed we don't have a copy of Finspan. Like we might have to go back to the CG realm and go, I know you ordered in extra copies for us. We might have to buy one of those.
I only got to play it once. And when I was done playing it, I wanted to play it again immediately. And I had no interest in this game. I figured it was going to be too light for me and that I would find it boring. And I have to admit, like, if you played it a lot, I could see it getting stale. But there is definitely enough meat on the bones there to suck you in. Like, there's strategy. It's interesting. And like I said, as soon as I was done it, I was like, oh, I want another one. And it's nice and quick. It's quick. It's easy to teach. And it's got enough meat on its bones that it's fun to play.
All right. We're already at the end. This did not quite take as long as I thought it worried it might take. Final game we want to highlight is House of Fado. Deanna and I talked about this one on our Adam recap episode. We were talking about the Gamers Ranch. Deanna has declared this her game of the year. I don't know if that still stands, but she did at the time at Adam. This was reinforced, in my opinion, when we featured the game at the summoning. And we also played our own copy that weekend with Sean, just as a refresher on how to play the game. This is Vital Lacerda worker placement game. It's a streamlined version of the Gallerist. It's what Finspan is to Wingspan, House of Fado is to the Gallerist. Fantastic bumping system introduced in the Gallerist with a similar art-based theme of running a Fado restaurant. Dee and I have already talked about this one. I already know some of your opinion on this, but Sean, what do you think of House of Fado?
So I was really shocked. I really had no idea what to expect. I've never played the Gallerist. Well, this was fantastic, thematic, quick playing, and really easy to learn. The only thing, my only thought when I was walking away from it after playing, I really enjoyed playing it. My one thought was how many times am I going to love playing this? How much staying power does it have at the table? But that first play was great, and I definitely had thoughts about, next time I might want to try this, and the other thing. So there's definitely replayability to it. It's just a matter of how long that replayability goes. So that was my only real concern.
I am still completely in love with this one. I got to sit down and teach it and play it with people at the summoning, and I had so much fun with it. I am calling it my game for 2025. I called it.
It's official now.
It's mine.
We're gonna have to sit down and play Earth before the end of the year to see if that compares.
Earth is good. I really love Earth.
Ark Nova, not Earth. Sorry, I said on Mars. On Mars.
Okay.
We need to try to get On Mars and Ark Nova to the table before the end of the year to see if those are better. Oh, Earth or Fado? That's hard for me when I think about that. Man, our best of 2025. I like them both,
but I'm giving it to Fado.
2025. So we mentioned the summoning a couple times. I just want to, before we head out, this is local Windsor specific. Well, I will say the summoning was really good this year. That is the second year of a local game convention held at St. Clair College, put on by a bunch of local esports community, as well as some of the friendly local game stores. And I think it was a great event in general. Attendance was higher than last year, despite the fact there were some organizational issues and they had to move it at the last minute to a different date. As for our area, we had a larger board game area. We had more tables. They were, for the most part, filled. We had play-to-win games. Every single play-to-win game got played at least once. Most got played multiple times. There were some games that were true hits that just kept getting played, which was awesome. We hosted a Boop tournament, which, from what I understand, was a bit of a talk of the con. That people were like in the other areas of the convention going, "Oh, did you see the silly cat game? Oh, did you see the cat game?" It gathered a crowd there. We had the 4 tables set up for the tournament. When we weren't running the tournament, it tended to be 3 of those tables were taken up by people who just wanted to play and see the game.
I just taught Boop nonstop all day.
Yes, basically. Other hits were Trash Talk was extremely popular. Catch the Moon was extremely popular. We completely sold people on Finspan and House of Fado who had never played it before. Nunatuck, the one game that happened on that, was very popular. It was overall a really good event. We also had some used games for sale and managed to shrink our collection a little bit, which was nice. So summoning was great. I am really looking forward to seeing what they do with it next year. It should be in July. I've been assured by the organizers that it will be in July and there won't be any issues causing it to be moved this year. So I am looking forward to that.
They're talking about going to 2 days for next year. I'm so hyped about it. I'm super excited.
I'm just so happy there's a con in Windsor again.
Mm-hmm.
It's been years. I also want to say that our Walkerville events are going strong. The next one's on September 25th for anyone in the area. I personally think it's worth the drive to come in if you're not in the Windsor area, but if you're like up to an hour away, I think we have a good, we put on a good show. We continue to get new people out. We got a bunch of regulars. The bar is happy. The only thing I will warn you is if it's hot outside, just prepare for that. It gets a little warm inside there.
By September 25th, I'm hoping that won't be an issue. Yeah, but our July event, the weather was really hot that day, and the AC does not keep up in that giant brewery warehouse space.
And since we were last year, we have had 2 events at the Cookie Bar on Droulard. I'm digging that venue. It's a little more private, a little smaller. We can't fit
a little more air conditioned,
but definitely a lot more air conditioned. Really nice patio outside. We do not currently have anything booked for them for September, but we are hoping to be back in October. And that's about it for local events. There is hopefully some big things coming, but I can't talk about those yet.
All right, well, that's all for what games we've been playing. What about you? What hit your table recently? Leave a comment, send an email, or post in the What You've Been Playing section of our Discord. It's time to return to Valeria and take up arms as the Shadow Forces as we return to Shadow Kingdoms of Valeria, taking a look at the Riftlands expansion, an expansion that finally adds the symmetry to the game that we've been looking for since our first play.
Yeah, we all love Shadow Kingdoms, but we've always felt like the big thing that was missing was asymmetric powers for the 5 different races in the game. And now we have it, thanks to the continued design work of Stan Kordonsky and publisher Daily Magic Games.
Now, if you don't remember us talking about Shadow Kingdoms of Valeria in the past, I invite you to go back and check out our preview and review of the core game and the first expansion, Rise of Titans, which did try to add some asymmetry, but didn't quite scratch that itch that we were feeling.
It's not just asymmetry that gets added to the new Shadow Kingdoms with the Riftlands expansion. This expansion also adds a new board to the game, featuring 3 Riftlands and 1 new shrine used to explore them. With that, there are new campfire tokens to represent each journey you take, a deck of relic cards you can earn, new in-game scoring cards, a bunch of new champions. You also get some stickers to place on the original board and have to remove some of the original game's champions.
So how this all works is pretty simple. First, you add the stickers to the board. Note, these don't change anything. All they basically do is give an icon for each shrine that then can be referenced on some of the new champions and relics. So you're not actually changing your board. And if you play without the expansion, there's no change. It's fine. Do be aware, though, that the gem shrine, the sticker overlays where the board folds. So it's up to you what you want to do about that. You could cut your sticker or just kind of put it off to the side, which is what we did. Once you've got that out, you're going to lay the new Riftlands board to the right of the main board, deal 2 relic cards to each area on that board, and then randomly select one of the new Riftlands scoring cards. That goes at the top of the board along with all the other purple in-game scoring cards. Each player selects the race and sets it up like the base game, but you're going to add a new overlay on top of your board, and you're going to collect the campfire tokens in the appropriate color.
Now, that overlay provides a few things, the most important being 2 totally new asymmetric powers. One that you start with at the beginning of the game and one that you can unlock later. And then a reminder, when using this expansion, each player will score 1 point at the end of the game for each battle card that they complete that has their race's icon on it. And then there's 2 card slots for holding relics. And as you collect the relic cards from the Riftlands, you can only have 2 equipped at a time. So it's laid out very nicely. You can't possibly screw it up. There's slots for everything.
Gameplay is the same as the base game with the addition of a new shrine located on the Riftlands board. When you go there, you draft a dice from any of the main board's shrines. Then you have the opportunity to travel to one of the 3 Riftlands, which cost magic. The cost ranges from 1 to 3, top to bottom, plus 1 magic per campfire you have already played in that rift in previous rounds. The cost is discounted based on the die you drafted.
So why do you want to go to the Riftlands? Well, one, you get that bonus die that you take from everywhere. That's huge. But you're also, each rift, each area has 2 relic cards. These are powerful magic items that have interesting new in-game abilities. So when you go to a Riftland, you pay for it, you put a campfire token there, and then take one of the 2 cards. Note, like everything else in the game, you can spend magic to cycle the deck if you don't like what's there. Now, each type of item triggers at different times. Some of the items affect when you're drafting dice, making a specific die color wild or upping the value of the dice when you draft them. Others give you actions at the start of your turn. Like the start of every turn, you can move a die. That's huge. They might give you bonuses when you complete battles. Like every time you complete a battle, roll up a die or gain some power. Some give you rewards for completing the diamonds on your side scoring board and more. Now, relics collected can be equipped on your player board overlay or stored in your pack. Now, the one thing they don't give you is a place to put the pack. You just put it off your player board.
The Riftlands board also adds 2 new endgame scoring opportunities. First off, there's now an area majority scoring based on the number of campfire tokens placed by the players, with the top rift being worth the least and the bottom being worth the most, which is the reason for the different magic costs. And then there's a set collection aspect where you are making sets out of the relics that you've been collecting.
Now, what all this leads to is a more open version of Shadow Kingdoms of Valeria, where everyone has unique abilities and the game is less punishing. Going to the Riftlands not only opens new scoring opportunities and card power combinations, it also makes it easier to draft the dice you need to complete your battles. These new scoring opportunities open up new strategies, and the game feels less scripted as players aren't forced to just focus on completing battles for the highest points.
Now, of course, the best part of this expansion for me, obviously, for anyone who's been a fan of the show for even one episode, is the fact it's now more asymmetric. The asymmetric abilities are awesome. Gnolls are all about collecting gems and going to the gem shrine. The orcs are all about collecting champions and being able to have more than any other player and getting discounts and bonuses when using that shrine. The undead can indeed resurrect troops after battle through the use of magic and so on. I'm not going to get into every power and all how they work. You can all discover that for yourself. This is what I've wanted from Shadow Kingdoms of Valeria since the first time I played a prototype of the game. And now I've got it. And I actually got more than I expected because I was hoping for like 1 power each, like whatever. The goblins get a bonus for how many of them there are, and I want the undead to resurrect people. I got 2 powers per race, and I'm so happy they gave me 2. And I like that the second more powerful one is an unlock ability. So you all get an ability at the start. We're instantly asymmetric, but it's kind of up to you later in the game if you really feel that other ability is worth it. And I have seen people play and not unlock that ability until fairly late in the game or at all.
This fixes the game. Like the game wasn't broken, but it did get really samey really quick because you were all heading to the same end goal. And after a couple plays, I felt that Shadow Kingdoms was just, like Sean said, scripted. And this expansion fixes that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this has really made the different races matter now. Before a race, it was just the color. It was just the color of the board you were playing. Even though the first expansion tried to fix that, I think honestly it failed at doing that. And now the fact that a gnoll isn't an orc matters.
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing that was in the original game is you can unlock making your color wild. Everyone could unlock making their color wild. That was it. That was the only asymmetry is gnolls could make brown dice wild and gargoyles can make black dice wild. And like that to me is basically symmetry, right? I honestly think just with this is it. If this is all this gave were these overlays, the game would be totally worth it. No magic item, just give me those 2 abilities. Awesome. Like I would be totally happy with this expansion if that's all they did. They could have gave me new rules, new player board abilities, no magic items, no rifts, none of that, and I would have been happy with just that. Like honestly. Now that's not to say I don't like the Riftlands board because actually it's really cool and I dig it. The relic system's neat, and honestly, equipping magic items feels right. Like this is a fantasy game about fantasy races battling, and orcs are trying to get champions, and Knowles are doing magic over there with their shamans, and now I get to equip my people with helmets and axes and magic orbs. And I think that just fits the theme of the game, but it also it mechanically works really well. Now, where to me it falls down a bit is the big reward is collecting a bunch of the same. So I'm like, why am I trying to collect 5 different magic axes? Or why am I collect all the dragon orbs maybe? But you know what? That's fine. That's a slight, tiny thematic breach to me. I think I'd rather have a variety. Maybe they should reward for different sets of different items as well, but that's not how the game works.
Yeah, I had the same thought. It would be better if it was a set and that I want a helmet and an axe and a magic orb, not 3 magic orbs, or 5 maps. Yeah.
Yeah, one interesting thing I found about the Riftlands was, while this is adding a whole new section and all this set collecting, and one could think that, oh, well, now you have to pay attention to this, or, the people who do are going to ruin the game. You don't. In the game we played, I chose to almost completely ignore the Riftlands because it wasn't the path I was taking, and yet I was still up at the top of the leaderboard. So while it is a valid option towards the end game, it is not a required option, even if other people are going and building sets. That means they're losing out on other things.
If I remember correctly, you were a really close second in that game. You could have definitely taken it while ignoring it. I dig the Riftlands board. I like that it adds that area majority aspect to the game. Mm-hmm. It gives me something to focus on. It gives me a goal. I find that fun. It added something to the game for me. It scratched an itch.
Yeah, and the other thing I like too is just, I think the only time Sean went to the Riftlands was that ability to draft the die from anywhere is actually very powerful. There are cases where you can't go draft the die if you can't do the action where the die is at. And there's times where you can't do that. And you're like, I really need that 6 that's in the gem spot, but all my gems are full. And it's nice to be able to go there to get it. So that actually really opened up the game a bit, but it also encourages people to use the new board and see some of the new stuff. So yes, if you do that just to get the die, you're also going to get a cool relic that might make other interesting things. Now, the one thing that I did find was while focusing on battles, it's easy to forget about the end game scoring. Your first play with Riftlands, be sure to remind people if you're the teacher or if you're playing with inexperienced players that yes, you're scoring sets of relics and you're playing area control with your campfires. I found it. I think Sean kind of forgot about the campfire end game scoring, and if it wasn't for that, would have won our last game. Now we are mixing this. We played with Riftlands a few times. We did try mixing and matching with Rise of Titans. Now this was the second expansion. You can check out a review of that because it's a bunch of separate modules, and we talked about which we like and which we don't. There are certain ones I like to use every game. That pretty much carried over. The ones I really liked still worked well with Riftlands. The Great Battles module in particular, I can't see playing without. That's the one where you finish a battle, your lowest dice can go on to these other battles to kind of give you some money or some extra drafting and some cards. And then there's a scoring opportunity there as well that's area control. I did like that. Shrine of Titans is the one where it goes in the middle of the board and your most powerful dice become Titans that people can hire. That one's good, but I found that really led to a higher scoring game. Because what people will do is instead of going there to buy them, they'll go to the Riftlands and draft the 5s and 6s from the shrine. And as far as we could tell, that was a legal move. I checked the Board Game Geek forums. It seemed like you could take from that shrine. I was never a fan of ancient spells, but they would work fine with this expansion. The Wraith dice didn't seem as useful in Riftlands because one of the things they did was one of those, well, I can't get the die color I need. I just go grab a Wraith instead. Well, now you can kind of grab the color you need if you go to the Rifts. Now, it doesn't work when the board's almost empty, but for most of the game, your color is going to be there somewhere. So those I tend not to use.
Once you add in Riftlands, I am completely take it or leave it with Rise of the Titans. All of the Rise of the Titan modules, if you want them in, okay. It's not breaking anything, but I don't feel it's adding that extra bit that I need.
I don't know. I tend to mostly agree, but I think I'm with Mo here. The Great Battles should be there. The Great Battles is one of those things that probably should have been in base game, along with asymmetry. and works really well. It's an excellent mechanic. It's almost a catch-up mechanic in some ways, because if you've got those low dice, you're going to get something out of them in the long term, as long as everyone is sort of helping out and competing, or you can focus and do a whole bunch of stuff and try and finish group battles on your own.
And this is coming from someone who decided to try to complete as many small battles as quickly as possible. So I think it also went well with that strategy, but again, opened it up so that you got to ignore the Riftlands. I don't know if you would have been able to pull that off without using the great battles. All right. Bad parts about this expansion. None, just go buy it. No, it does make the game longer. There are more options. It opens up more strategies. AP gets longer. There's more thinking time in the game. This does improve, but expect some AP the first time you break it out. 5 players was already long. Shadow Kingdoms is a long game with 5 players with a lot of downtime. Adding this in just made that worse. The other problem we've had, and this is where I think 5 players falls down the most, is that at the higher player counts, things change a lot between your turns, and planning ahead can often be a waste of time or frustrating, because the battle plan you just wanted, or the relic you needed, or the die you planned to draft is taken by another player.
Yeah, this one, this is the really hard part about this one for me. Playing this at 5 players is, any time you look ahead at the board and you start thinking about what you're going to do in your turn, you are wasting your time and actively making yourself angry. Because there are only so many things out there that are going to get done, and everyone's trying to sort of, roughly head in the same direction. And so with 5 players, someone is going to impact whatever you had planned in some way. And so it does become a matter of, I'm just going to, chat with somebody over here or check my phone or something and wait until it gets at least, a player away from me, where there's a good chance I might be able to figure out something that isn't going to get, jackknifed before it gets to me.
I didn't mind the great upheaval as much as Sean did, and I know it was annoying the heck out of you. But I just, at 5 players, the amount of time before it comes back around to your turn, it gets boring. You're not engaged. There's nothing to keep you engaged when it's not your turn, and it's just too long to get back around the table. And for me, that makes the game boring, and I just don't want to be there. I want to look at my phone. I want to, and at 3 and 4, it's a doable game. But once you get to 5, it's just too much.
Totally fair. I personally don't mind it. It doesn't bother me. But our usual suggestion, how do you reduce AP, is plan ahead for your turn. Sean's right, though. Like, yes, please do that, but do it 2 players before, or 1. Don't start planning as soon as, like, when your turn's done. Don't plan 3 steps ahead ever, right? That's never going to happen. Something's going to change. Unless it's all stuff you already own. Like, you've already captured the battle plans and the dice, you might be okay. But if you plan to do anything at any shrine, just expect it won't be able to work.
In fact, if at the end of your turn you plan your next turn, you're adding to your AP, because by the time it gets around to you, what you have planned is not happening.
Yeah, exactly. Which honestly, I think makes it even longer, which is kind of weird. I do have one other very, very minor complaint, and I think it's just something that is a side effect of putting this expansion in. The points are way higher, much higher end game scores than the original game. And the score track on the board wasn't expecting you to go that high, very obviously. So what we already were doing with the last expansion is we start with everyone with their score tokens are nice and silk screened on one side and blank on the other. So we start with them blank side down. And then, like, you level up your token when you hit 70 points and you go to the cool side because it has the art. But with this expansion, we had people lap the board twice. So our fix now was you lay them flat, face down, and then you flip them. And now once you've lapped the second time, you stand it up. But what I would have liked this expansion to have is actually tokens, those 70, 140 tokens, plus 50, the type you get in a lot of games. Not that anyone was forgetting who lapped the board, but I would have liked something physical to represent it instead of having to manipulate my score token various directions. Now, one of the things we like to do while talking about our game reviews is favorite moments while playing. And I'd like it if all 3 of us could share some favorite moments playing Shadow Kingdoms of Riftlands. Some of mine include taking a relic just to deny another player. It was Gwen in this case, who very proudly kept advertising that she was 1 away from a set of 5. Don't do that if you want to strategize, because I don't mind grabbing that dragon or a bit will be worth some points. One of my favorite things to do, and this actually goes back to the base game, is completing a battle plan no one expects you to be able to. Where you're like, well, you don't have the dice, or you don't have the cards, or you don't have the strength, and you're like, oh yeah, well wait, I'm gonna sit there and as I'm gargoyles, I'm gonna cycle the deck, and then I'm going to spend 2 magic to get that thing that costs 5 down to cost 1, so I can buy it for 1. And then I'm going to sit there and I'm going to use a gem to flip this die to this side. And then I'm going to, and that combination of like, holy crap, you completed that. I didn't expect you to do that. Leapfrogging, because this is a game where the scores tend to leapfrog back and forth. You're like, I completed a battle, I'm ahead. Now someone else completed a battle. Oh, then someone completed a battle with a bonus. Then someone else completes a battle. And there's this fun thing where the scores kind of leapfrog. You never really know who's in the ahead. And whoever's ahead, is like 1 turn, 1 battle away from getting jumped. One thing that was unique to this expansion is I was never frustrated. There was nothing I could do. Many times you're like, I need a red die to complete this battle. There are no red dice. I guess I'm going to go grab this blue die that's a 2 and hire a person because there's nothing else for me to do. I never felt that any of the times we played with Riftlands. There was always a very valid move that advanced my plans in a way that was effective. Winning the game by less than 5 points, where I thought I had no chance until those endgame scoring. Like that, man, those Riftland majority points can add up.
Yeah, Shadow Kingdoms for me, it's always that feeling where it's like this game is going on. It's particularly at 5 players. It kind of feels like it's dragging on a bit, and all of a sudden it ends very abruptly. And I'm still on the fence if I like that or hate it. I think it depends on if I'm winning or not. Because I'm like, I was just about to do something cool, and there's no little trickle at the end. You're done. Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my big interesting thing with this one was just sort of being quiet and letting. I felt almost intentionally like the outsider in this game, where everyone else was chatting, where I was trying to, I don't know, mentally avoid people from taking things that I wanted to do. So, but as a result,
Yes.
I ended up scoring first on like 3 of the end game goals, know, and getting some significant points out of that, which is, helped push me along, because I was just kind of doing my own little thing and staying quiet and not going on and on about, this sword or that axe or this orb of control, and not focusing on the Riftlands while I sort of, hoarded my little mini battles.
Gwen took far too much glee in denying me my 4th battle axe.
So yeah, we don't say it often, but if you own Shadow Kingdoms of Valeria, this is a must-have. It much more so than Rise of Titans. I actually think you could skip Rise of Titans. I don't think it's needed to use anything here, which is actually really cool of Daily Magic to not require anything from the previous expansion. This just improves the original in so many ways. It's not just the asymmetry. I love that aspect, but it's not just that. The game feels less scripted, which we talked about. It feels less rote. That to me is actually the biggest reward of this expansion. There are now more valid strategies. Maybe it's leaning towards point salad at this point, but I love point salads. I loved the fact there are more strategic options and really added to the replayability. And honestly, I feel I had more of a sense of accomplishment when a plan worked, more so than I completed 7 battles and did them slightly better than you because I collected higher dice. Like, it was a more rewarding second place. I didn't even win. Like, it just, having your plan come to fruition felt better with this expansion.
Yeah, it's not quite point salad, but it's giving you more options and more paths to choose from, and I dig that. And I dig the asymmetry. I think that it just levels up Shadow Kingdoms in every way.
Yeah, I think the only other game I have felt this strongly about needing an expansion is Xayah. We've talked in the past about how Xayah, as soon as you got Embers, it became, the game it should have been. Mm-hmm. This is very much that same thing. Shadow Kingdoms of Valeria needed this expansion to make it the whole game it should be.
Yeah, go pick it up. Great job, Daily Magic Games. Finally gave us what we wanted. Appreciate it. Now, if anyone's in the Windsor area and wants to try this expansion out, just let me know. Hit me up on social media. I'll show it off at any of our public play events now.
Riftlands was one of the most rewarding expansions we've gotten to try over the years. It gave us something that we've been asking for since previewing Shadow Kingdoms before it was even kickstarted. Now, do you have an expansion like this, one that adds something to a game that you felt was missing and that you were hoping for? We want to hear about it.
Come on over to our Discord and join in the discussion. And if you enjoyed this review, how about buying us a coffee? Head over to tabletopbellhop.com/coffee.
Well, that was the double bell.
That means our shift's coming to an end and we're going to have to lock the lobby doors. Don't worry, they'll be open again sooner than last time.
Before we start locking things down, let's take a moment to thank a selection of our Tabletop Bellhop Patreon patrons, all of which are awesome. We greatly appreciate you sticking around, even when we haven't been producing as much content as we would like to be. Sean P. Kelly, thanks, Sean.
Derek Hisson, thank you so much for sticking around.
Thank you to the members of the Misdirected Mark podcast.
Donna, thanks, Pax.
Evil John, thank you, John.
Thank you to Brian Kurtz.
Now, your first stop to finding us should be at tabletopbellhop.com, but you can find us all over the web as Tabletop Bellhop, one word, and on your podcatcher of choice as the Tabletop Bellhop Gaming Podcast.
Now, we love answering your gaming and game night questions online through email and here on the podcast. You can send questions to questions@tabletopbellhop.com. Go over to the webpage, click on Ask the Bellhop, or just hit us up on social media.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. And please share this episode with other gamers that you think might dig it.
Well, that's all for us tonight. Hopefully, we'll be back sooner rather than later.
For the Tabletop Bellhop Gaming Podcast, I'm Sean.
I'm Deanna.
And I'm Mo.
Thank you.
And
game
on.